been a money maker. I've been a record breaker, taking credit as an educator. I've been known to spit the flows and make it shaky, shaky thing. Popping, locking, stopping, let it hang. Watch us as we drop this hip hop, it's like it stains. We make the whole room drop and everybody sing. We want the funk. We gotta have that funk. We kick it old school. We think we're so cool. We take it back to the past. We gonna act a fool. Enough jumps, the middle finger make my yay.
Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to Sports Buzz, the Fanatical View. I am your host, Scott D. Lewis, here live in studio, Comcast Cable, Channel 23, downtown Denver, Connecticut, on this thunderstorm-filled, sweltering, hot, humid July 6th, I guess it is. Is it the 7th? What day is it? I don't even know what day it is. But it is it's the 7th. There's the date right there on the screen for us. Thank you very much, Mike. See, I'm all thrown off. Usually at this point in time, you start hearing my main man, Mr. Bob Roth Jr., cutting into my intro and talking over me, but I am flying solo today. Nobody here to bounce my ideas off of. This is just terrible. It's going to end miserably, I'm sure. But we are here, and Mike is pretty much alone in the studio as well, the skeleton crew as it was. So we will still plug Bob Brought's show, Spotlight On, Tuesday nights at 9 and Wednesdays at 12. We also wish Bob well. We know he's been going through a tough time with the passing of his mother, and the funeral was today, so we hope everything did go well for him and his family, and we will welcome him back when he is ready. And of course, my man Mike Toohey in the studio, running things solo. Mike McFadden, the Met Maniac, he might be here at some point. He said he was going to try to get here. If he is, he'll jump on the microphone behind the camera and start talking to me. But Mike's show, Expose Cinema, Friday nights at 9, Wednesdays at 1. We'll be taping tomorrow. And the show's topic, I just saw the plug for it on the TV there. Why you should not vote for Donald Trump. Is he going to be able to fill all that in an hour? Mike, you might need more than an hour to list all the reasons why. But this is not a political show, so I don't want to get off and running on a tangent. We appreciate everybody who tuned in last week to episode number 200. It was a good time had by all. I still can't believe the fact that I spilled water on myself in the middle of the show. That was great. The phone lines are open, 203-792-4101. Since I'm here by myself, this is a great opportunity for anybody to call and get their word in edgewise, because, Bob likes to talk over me, but maybe you could talk over me, 203-792-4101. So show number 200 is behind us. We are moving on to show number 201. So I say, all right, we're doing a regular show. All right, let's just do this. Stop with those specials. All right, we're going to start with something I didn't even tell Mike about. There's no pictures on this, Mike. I just want to run through a couple NBA free agent signings. Some big stuff. I usually don't touch too much on off-season dealings in any of the sports, but this was kind of a big deal. Kevin Durant, Durantula, bailing on Oklahoma City. If you can't beat them, join them. Goes to the Golden State Warriors. Unbelievable, shocking signing. I personally did not see that coming. I thought sure he was going to re-up with OKC. They were close, very close to getting to the NBA Finals this year, and they had moved themselves back into full contention mode after some injury-plagued seasons in the last few. They were healthy again. They had restocked. They made a nice little trade night or draft night trade. And it looked like they could be right there in prime position, maybe to get to the NBA Finals. And with the landscape of the NBA, with the salary cap and everything going up right now, he was going to be able to get a ton of money on a one-year deal with OKC, stay there, and then get even more money if he left next year. So a lot of people thought, including myself, he would do just that. The Celtics went courting him among some other teams, but in the end, it was a meeting in the Hamptons with all the players and the front office people from the Golden State Warriors over July 4th weekend that got it done, and he announced he is going to the Bay to play in Oakland with the Golden State Warriors, the record-setting 73-win team from a year ago who came up just short in the NBA Finals after that pivotal Game 5 suspension turned everything around and tipped the scales in the favor of Bron and the Cavs. A couple other NBA moves that did take place. The Celtics did go out and get a new Big Al. My old favorite, Big Al Jefferson, made a move as well, leaving Charlotte, which I was a little surprised by, going to Indiana. Not too happy. King Kemba is going to need a new man to play with down in Charlotte. But the Celtics get Al Horford, the All-Star from the Atlanta Hawks. Pretty good move. Certainly an upgrade over what they saw out of Jared Sullinger, who I personally have seen enough of. It's going to change their team somewhat. I don't know that this puts them over the top by any stretch of the imagination. I think they need a little bit more than just Horford. I wanted him to get reteamed with his old Florida Gator teammate, Joakim Noah, who is past his prime but still a gritty-gutty player. But the Knicks, the Knickerbockers, they made the move to get Noah and team him up with his former Bulls teammate, Derrick Rose. So the Knicks made a couple moves for some past their prime, injury-plagued players, Derrick Rose and Joakim Noah, coming to the Garden. It does give them relevance, and it is worth noting that Rose did play 68 games last year, so he was, that's a pretty healthy season. The Bulls, of course, did not make the playoffs, and Rose was a big factor as he was out. But at least the Knicks made some moves. That should upgrade their team. We'll see how it does with them and what else they can do. We know they got the new coach in Jeff Hornacek. We'll see how that meshes. Speaking of the Bulls, another shocking move. Flash. Dwayne Wade leaves Miami and heads back home. Remember, he was the Marquette kid out of the Chicago area, and he goes to the Chicago Bulls. A very strange signing for him, but he can team up with Jimmy Butler. The Bulls didn't make the playoffs last year, so I don't know that this is a great move for him as far as putting himself in contention. He does get to go home, and there are some players on that team, but just an interesting, very, very interesting move by Dwayne Wade, leaving his Miami Heat, where he won 3 championships. Remember, he won well before Bron went down there in the so-called new Big Three with Bosh. He was teamed up with Shaquille O'Neal for a championship much earlier than that. So that was some interesting NBA news. All right, we're going to move on. I do want to get to baseball later in the show, but some other international things going on that we're going to get to. Game that just ended about an hour and a half ago. Some might call it a stunning, shocking surprise finish to this one, but in the semifinal of the Euro Cup, France 2, Germany 0. And Antoine Griezmann with his 6th goal of the tournament, leading all goal scorers in the tournament and playing in front of the home fans in France, as this tournament has taken place in France, and the final is set to take place in Paris, and they will be going wild. Kind of similar to what took place in 1998 when the French national team went on to win the World Cup when they hosted the World Cup final in France there, with the final being played in Paris, I believe, as well. And they're going to look to win it, the Euro Cup final here, and they will be going up against Portugal. Portugal has just been this surprising team. Luck of the draw somewhat, you might say, with them. They beat Wales 2-0 in the semifinal. And Cristiano Ronaldo, who is kind of made a spectacle of himself with some off-the-field comments, on-the-field antics. Portugal, we know, has always come up lame. And they, has advanced really by not necessarily winning games. They did finally beat Wales 2-0 in regulation, but they advanced out of the group stage by not beating anybody, but just getting ties. And then they also advanced in the round of 16 and the quarter, I believe, in extra time and or penalty kicks. So they had not really even won a game in regulation, and they had still made it all the way to the semifinal. They knock out Wales 2-0, and Wales was a feel-good story in this tournament, as well as Iceland, the team that France upended 5-2 as Iceland's dream run through the tournament ended in the quarterfinal. Remember, Iceland knocked off England 2-1, and what many people felt was one of the most shocking and stunning upsets in the history of sport itself, certainly in the history of soccer. I agree, on paper, maybe you would say that, But also, I would add that this is what England does in major tournaments. They lose, especially in shocking fashion. So with that being the case, I don't know that it was that big of an upset or big of a shock, at least, that England went out in stunning fashion in a major tournament. Again, that is what England does. They break the hearts of their fans. And it was, to this time around, Iceland, a team that really had just begun playing competitive soccer and making its way into tournaments not that long ago. This was their first ever win in a major tournament. They got their wins in the group stage, and they advanced, and they played great. But they could not come up with the goods against France at home with the 5-2 stunning, shocking beatdown of Iceland to end their run. Germany losing to France in the quarterfinal. Germany broke my heart, I guess you might say, with the 1-1 regulation time, 6-5 penalty kick win over Italy. This was shocking, really. The way the penalty kick went down was just amazing. It went to 9 penalty kicks. It was gut-wrenching, to say the least. Italy had the upper hand with the 3-2 lead early, but they could not advance when they, put 2 balls. They did not convert in the kicks 4 and 5, where they could have won it. Schweinsteiger missed when he could have ended it in the 5th kick for Germany, but he sailed it over the bar. There was multiple misses by both teams, a couple saves as well. Gigi Buffon, I thought, could have won this match. He guessed right 3 straight times after they went to sudden death penalty kick situation, but the ball just eluded him, and he is an all-time world-class goalie. For some reason, it was just not meant to be, because he made the right move to get the stops on these plays where he could have ended it and won it with a save, but he could not get it. And Germany advanced ultimately when one of the young strikers for Italy stepped up and put a weak shot that the German goalie saved in a penalty kick number 9. And then Germany advanced when they converted theirs in the 9th or 10th. That was just crazy. It's been an incredible, really, Euro Cup, and really the past month and a half with the Copa America Cup and then the Euro Cup overlapping for some time. Copa final took place 2 weeks ago, and the Argentinians still stunned by the events that took place there. Messi sailing the ball over the bar, which was the undoing in the final against Chile, and then he announced his retirement right after the match, saying he would never play for the national team again. 3 straight major tournament finals Argentina made, 2 Copas, 1 World Cup final. They lost in all of them. It was gut-wrenching to him. But maybe sidebar, there's some other things going on with Messi, including being found guilty of tax fraud. He got 21 months probation. That was just handed down yesterday. And then also a lot of unrest by other players on the team that, not happy with the national team and the coaching situation there. So there could be some political things on the background right now that he's positioning himself to make some changes for the national team that could ultimately lead to him returning. I know my Argentinian contingent that I am close with, they say he cannot leave unfinished business. He must play again. So it's been a national disaster for Argentina as that went down. But the final for Euro Cup will take place within the week. We'll see who can come up with the goods there. Portugal, who never wins, or France, who has a history of winning when they host, specifically in 1998, the World Cup. We'll see if they can do it again. They look great right now, and Griezmann is playing out of his mind. But Ronaldo is widely viewed, along with Messi, as being the top players in the world. We'll see if Portugal can finally break through. I will mention real quick, just some MLS stuff. They are back in action. They took a break during Copa America. The NYC FC is in first place in the Eastern Conference. They upended the New England Revolution 1-0. They have won 4 straight. The Revs have lost 3 straight. Not looking very good. NYFC is in first place. They also beat the Red Bulls 2-0 last week. Red Bulls in 4th place with 23 points. FC with 30. The Revs out of playoff position right now in 8th place with only 19 points, 4-7-7. A lot of ties keeping them on the brink of maybe getting back in it, but not doing well. They did oust the Cosmos from the Open Cup, and the Revolution are into the quarterfinals of that cup that takes place, that tournament that takes place throughout the season and throughout the year. We will keep track of that. Other international things taking place. Tennis, anyone? Serena Williams advances to the finals. She did it in quick fashion, 6-2, 6-0 against the Russian Elena Vesnina today, early this morning. She did it, advancing to a final. You know, last year she had won the first 3 majors, and it looked like she was going to go for the Grand Slam, but she could not do that, being ousted in the U.S. Open semifinal. Since then, she lost in the Australian Open final against who will be her matchup in the final at Wimbledon, Angelique Kerber, who upended Venus Williams. There we see some of the matches that took place, the draw as it took place. Halep, I was noticed, did well. She's somewhere in that draw, but she did not advance past. There she was in the quarterfinal up there. She knocked out by Kerber, and then Kerber knocked out Venus Williams this morning as well, 6-4, 6-4. So there will not be a Williams sister final. It'll be Kerber. And as I was mentioning, Kerber knocked out Serena in the Australian Open final, so she has history with her. And then Serena also lost in the French Open as well, so she wasn't able to get there. So after winning 3 straight, she has stumbled lately in the finals. We'll see if she can turn that around on the All England grass court. In the men's side, it is into the semifinals that'll take place tomorrow. Roger Federer rallied from down 2-0 against Cilic, and he will be into the semifinal against Roenick, a Canadian. Kind of a surprising name. I have not seen him. And Andy Murray will face Berdych in the other men's semifinal, as Murray got past, or Berdych, I believe, got past Sam Querrey. Sam Querrey with the stunner of the match. He took out Djokovic in early round action, I think in this round of 16. So that was a big, big shocking development as the American Sam Querrey took out Djokovic. So it'll be Murray and Berdych. Berdych will be a tough match for Murray. It could be an interesting matchup, though, if we were to see Murray versus Federer. Federer, the old man who still has the guile and grit to get it done. He will be looking to try to get another major. He's always putting himself to win. Djokovic has been the man who's knocked him out recently, but with Djokovic out of the way, maybe Federer can get that done. And as I see my man, Mr. Mike McFadden, coming into the set, jumping on, and he will be miking up as he gets behind the cameras. Maybe I planned it this way to talk about some of these other things and get the baseball later in the show so I could get the opinions of one Mike, the Met Maniac. We'll see if he's got something to say as he gets himself ready. The other international thing that I wanted to mention, Tour de France is underway. Some unfamiliar names. I'm not all that into it yet. They're into stage 6 of the Tour de France so far. Christopher Froome, the defending champion, he is in 5th place right now. There's a German up atop these standings, somebody from France, a couple riders from Spain riding at the top 5 in the Tour de France. I'll start looking into this a little bit more. It kind of caught me off guard. I was really caught up with all the soccer activity that's been taking place, and the Tour de France did sneak up on me. I will look into that and start getting on top of that scene as we go. We're probably heading up to about 10 minutes left or so, and we are at the 10-minute mark. Mike McFadden, how you doing? Are we mic'd up? Are we ready?
I'm doing okay, Sky. It's been a busy day.
Overtime and traffic, I'm sure. Mike's been dealing with a lot of work stress.
Yep.
We're happy he can make it when he can. And we're happy he can make it and fill in for our guy Bob. We'll get him for the last 10 minutes as we shift gears and start talking baseball. I will take a sip of my water. Feel free to ramble on while I sip my water. Mike, you got anything to say about your Mets?
Well, this is going to be an interesting 4 games for them. If they can take, I'm expecting a sweep, but if they can take 3 out of 4,
would be nice.
Go into the All-Star break, I think that would leave them 1 game out.
They are, I believe, four
games,
out right now. So 3 out of 4 would put them. How does the math work? It's 1 game out, or maybe 2 or something like that. The math gets tricky with that.
Yeah.
But that would be good. They definitely want to, a split would be not great.
Right.
That would keep you 4 out. 3 out of 4, you gain a couple games. A sweep obviously would be incredible. They're playing the Nationals. They starts tonight. 4-game series. That's a kind of a tough deal. Big 4-game set
Absolutely.
at home right before the All-Star break. I was surprised when I looked at the schedule today when I was doing my notes and saw that was the deal. All right, we'll start with the National League. I was going to start with the Red Sox, but we'll start with the Mets. I mean, you had to feel happy about the sweep of the Cubs. That was a 4-game series too, right?
Absolutely.
So you had a 4-game series with the Cubs, a series with the Marlins in between, and then another 4-game series with the Nats right before the All-Star break. Big scheduling. I don't like those kind of scheduling deals, but you take the sweep of the Cubs, and that had to rekindle some thoughts of last year's playoffs.
Oh, absolutely.
And the Cubs suddenly, it's been the year of the Cubs, and the Cubs all of a sudden are not the best team in baseball. The San Francisco Giants out west are the best team in baseball at 54-33. Cubs at 52-32. 4-6 in their last 10, including that sweep at the hands of the Mets. All right, but what about this deal with Matt Harvey? I don't even know this injury thing. I've never heard of this.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to pretend to know what it is or even mention what it is because I couldn't even pronounce it. But it's some deal, and it could lead to season-ending surgery is on the table as a potential option. I mean, what are you hearing about Harvey and his situation?
Well, they say that he basically has 2 choices. He can go through, it's some type of blood, I think they call it like a blood letting technique or something, where they give him a shot to try to solve the problem. They say for some pictures it's worked, so of the other pictures it hasn't worked, or he can go for season-ending surgery.
And he had that terrible start, which they weren't really sure what that was about. But he rebounded from that. I know he had a really good stretch for a while. I didn't see his last start or 2. How had he been pitching before this news?
Well, you can tell
he had a good stretch, 3 or 4 games, but I didn't know his last game or 2 I missed.
Actually, his last 2 games weren't that great. It looked like, you could tell that something was off, but you couldn't tell what it was, especially the last game, because the last game, I think he only went like maybe 3 2/3 or 4 innings. So he really didn't pitch that well, and he gave up 6 runs. But fortunately, the Mets were able, that was the game when the Mets came from behind and they won the game 8-6.
Okay. Yeah, they've been scoring some runs lately. What do you think of the bringing back of Jose Reyes?
You know what? I think that's a move that I think it's a no-lose situation for them in this situation. He's going to help them in terms of stolen bases. You can move them around the infield because remember when they had Kaz Matsui as the shortstop back, I think this was in the 90s. Reyes played second base. So Reyes has the ability to play second, short, and third.
That was a while ago.
Yeah, exactly. So he has the ability to play at least 3 of the 4 infield positions.
Have they been playing him at third base yet?
He played third base for 1 game, and then the last game he was at shortstop.
Does he have a good enough arm from third base? I don't know if that's gonna work.
Absolutely.
Yeah?
He does. Oh, yeah.
All right. But what do you think about the whole, he was suspended for the first part of the whole season, 50 games or so, for domestic violence against his wife.
Right.
And, he left as the batting champion, but a lot of people were ticked off at the way he went out in that final game, bunting in that first at bat, and then protecting the batting title basically by taking himself out of that game.
Right.
And there's a lot of people that knew in the stands that paid money to see him play that might be his last game there.
Right.
And they wanted to see him, and he lamely went out, and people were not happy about that situation. He signed the big contract with Toronto, ultimately traded to Colorado, and then the suspension. What do you think about the off the field stuff and the way things ended the last time around?
Well, first of all, I think he probably should have been made to sit the season for what he did.
Right.
But in reference to what happened regarding the batting title, to me, and I can understand why fans feel this way. If you're a competitor, you want to stay in the game and you want to get the batting title legitimately, meaning that I forgot who it was. I think last year. whether it was the guy on the Astros, whether it was Altuve, and the guys had a shot at the batting title, and what he did was he stayed in the game, and I think he ended up getting 2 or 3 hits in the game, in the last game, which secured the batting title for him.
Well, of course, and historically, the famous story about Ted Williams.
Mike said 4 minutes.
When Ted Williams was chasing 400, the last man to hit 400 on a season, he had a chance to sit out that final day. It was a double header, Mike, and he was batting, what, 401, 402 going into the double header.
Exactly.
So instead of sitting out and protecting 400 and making sure he did that, he played both games of the double header. And what did he go? Like 4 for 6 on the day. He ended up raising his average to 406.
Exactly.
So that's what we talk about. All right, we don't have that much time. What are we down to, 3 minutes or so?
That's correct.
All right, so let's run through. I want to run through a couple of things. The Red Sox had a terrible June, really not good, but they're in the midst of a pretty good homestand right now. 4-2, took 2 out of 3 against the Angels, 2 out of 3 against the Rangers. To right their ship a little bit, they are in third place right now, 46-38. So they are behind Toronto, who is at 48-39. The Orioles remain in first place at 49-35. Cleveland in the Central Division, they ran that winning streak up to what, 11? Did they get to 12 at one point? 51-33. Really a big surprise. The Tribe doing very well. They got a comfortable lead over Detroit, 45-40. The White Sox, 44-41. Kansas City Royals, defending champs, at 43-41. Not too good. Texas, 53-33. Houston, and I mentioned this earlier in the year, big, huge struggle to start, but they kept themselves relevant. Now they are 46-39. I'm going to do a quick run through the wild card because we're getting to the All-Star break, and I think it's relevant at this point. Toronto and Boston are in the wild card positions in the American League, but it is bunched up right behind them. It's going to be very competitive, so the Red Sox cannot stumble, not only in their division, but also in the race for the wild card. Houston, a half a game out. Tigers, 1.5 out. Chi-Sox, 2.5 out. Royals, 3 games out. Mariners, 3.5 games out. So a lot of teams bunched up right behind Toronto and Boston. They're going to have to make a big run after the All-Star break. June was not good. They can't have another month like that. In the West, it's going to be a little bit easier on the wild card situation. Dodgers, Mets are in, heading into the All-Star break right now. Marlins at 2.5. Pirates at 2.5, Cards at 3. And none of those teams really playing great. Pirates 44-41, Cards 43-41. So your Mets are going to have a little bit easier run trying to either catch the Nationals in the second half or maintain that wild card spot than the Red Sox are going to have as far as catching the Orioles or maintaining. All right, we are out of time. Glad Mike made it for the last 10 minutes. We will see you next week for another show. All right, thanks for tuning in.
Good job, Mike.
Yeah.